Hi, everybody. Okay, so we are at 12:05 here, and I really value your time. So I'm going to dive in into some of the things that we're going to cover today. And before I do that, I have just changed my slide. I hope you can see the next one on the screen. I just wanted to give you a little more information about myself, though I do believe that some of your folks are maybe coming from my LinkedIn network. So you might even tell my biography, sorry, better than me. But a couple of things for those participants who maybe decided to register for this event by clicking the link on Eventbrite or Facebook. So I'm Julia, and I have been a talent acquisition consultant or recruiter here in Canada for the last close to 8 years now. This August, it's going to be my exact anniversary when I finally landed my first recruiter's assignment. And it's been quite an exciting journey. And the reason why I do webinars of this kind is because I still remember those very sad days when I was new to the country, when I was new to the job market as a recent grad, and I was trying to navigate the situation and, like find a way how to get my application noticed by the employers. But for these rare occasions when I will finally get an interview, like I struggled a lot just getting through the process, and I was very anxious. I was very insecure. So, and really what I find with, some of my clients, and aside from my talent acquisition job that I do Monday to Friday, I also have a career coaching business where I worked with job seekers from all walks of life. So, I find that even with this experienced folks, who have reached an executive level in their career, they still have a lot of nerves coming into play when it comes to the interview. So, whether you're newbie to the job market or you are at some sort of seniority level, the information that I'm going to be sharing with you today is applicable and relevant. And whether or not you are living in Canada or somewhere outside of the country, when it comes to the decision-making process and hiring process, it's more or less, there are the same factors, same things that are, kind of playing a key in. So the information that I'll be sharing will be applicable and will be transferable for, regardless where you're coming from. So I've been telling you that I've been in recruitment for the last close to 8 years, and my day-to-day job, something that I do from dusk to dawn, I review applications, I shortlist candidates for interviews, I manage the interviews, and, I participate in those hiring decisions being made, with other panel members in the interview. So I do have a lot of backstage information that I wanted to share with you and maybe shed some light into what's going on and how the successful candidates are being determined and selected and why. And I mentioned that for the last close to 5 years, I've been also running my career coaching business. Initially, it was actually called Job Winner. I don't know if any of you folks know me from that time, but it was that time in my life when I was doing everything on my own, and I was helping job seekers to better brand themselves by preparing resumes, cover letters for them, by designing and strengthening their LinkedIn profiles, doing interview coaching, all of this jazz. But just recently, last year, I have decided to scale up my business a little bit, and I've transformed it into something that I call recruiter coach. And this is where myself and a couple of other recruiters, we are providing the same set of services, and all of us are recruiters. We're all coming from this field. We all are being in this situation day to day where we select candidates. So we are bringing this knowledge to our clients now to help them land jobs in Canada or across the globe. So, and yeah, I've mentioned that I have been an immigrant here in Canada, and I'm going to celebrate my 10th anniversary as a Canadian citizen this year. So, maybe some of you have the similar story, which I would love to learn more about. So let's dive into today's agenda, right? So why are all of us here today? I'm sure you want to know that. So first and foremost, I wanted to go over some of the very much common mistakes that lead to rejection, and some of them might surprise you. You might think that you don't make this kind of mistake that I'll be talking about, but in fact you do. And I'm going to help you to prepare to the interview better and have more confidence as a result of your preparation in the interview itself. And also, yeah, we're going to go through some preparation steps for the interview. As I've mentioned, I'm going to teach you how to use the posting, to decode the posting, to derive some potential questions from the posting, to practice before your interview starts, and all other kinds of things. And at the end, I'm going to summarize our key learnings. I'm also hoping that you guys will be participating, as there's some activities along the way. For those of you who are a little bit shy, no problem. Just, you know, enjoy sipping your coffee or tea or whatever it is for the session. But those of you who want to participate, there will be an opportunity. And I'm this kind of, you know, facilitator who really believes that you only get a good retention of information if you get to practice it along the way. So this is something that we're going to do as well through the session. Just please be respectful to one another. That's the only thing that I'm asking for. And at the end of the session, before we head into the Q&A, or questions and answers that you guys might have for me, some questions, I will announce two winners, and there are a few good takeaways that I'm offering today. One of them will be the half an hour free interview coaching session with myself, and another thing that I will be giving away is the 8 weeks job landing course. You know, and I'm an author of that course, and this is something that's been helpful for over 200 Udemy students. So you're going to get a free access if you're one of the lucky winners. So let's dive into some content here. And as one of the first activities that I wanted you guys to participate in, just wanted to ask you, how do you think, what are some of the typical interview mistakes that are taking place? I want to know your thoughts. There is no right or wrong kind of answer, no such thing, no judgment-free zone. I just want to see your thinking process, and you might be surprised how many people share your opinion or share your view on the typical interview mistakes. I'm going to give you a moment to do that. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee while not answering the question. I got the first response here from Claudia. Not answering the question. I will have just probably elaborated to that, Claudia. Not answering the question to the full extent or the relevance of it. So not answering the question is a big one. Then Joyce is saying, without eye contact, body language is a big thing, whether it's a virtual interview or in-person interview. But you know, as recruiters, we're also trained that there are, you know, these folks who are neurodivergent, and, you know, they might not be that comfortable supporting eye contact. So though it is important, you know, sometimes there might be exceptions, and we understand that. Maya is saying, going unprepared, 100%. Being unprepared, it's a recipe for a disaster. I agree with you, Maya. Sarah is saying oversharing. Yes, you definitely have to be mindful of the time. Manjit not providing examples. Oh, that's such a big one. But it's hard sometimes. I also understand to come up with the example on the spot. Might not preparing what they need. Raji is saying that's right. Answering questions relevant or to the point. 100% with you there, Claudia. Maya is again saying talking about personal matters. Yeah, this is a no. Deep is saying pause when answering and not answering. The star formula needs to be used to answer questions. Calvinder is saying talking about current employer or colleagues. Well, again, it depends on the context, right? As long as you're not giving out any names and you're keeping information low-key and confidential, shouldn't be that big of a deal. And overthinking, Raji is saying, oh, yeah, I am one of these overthinkers. I'm raising my hand here. So absolutely. Okay, thanks so much everyone for participating. And we're moving into the very first mistake. And many of you guys have mentioned that in the chat before I even posted it on my slide. No preparation. It's a very big one, but the thing is that your understanding of no preparation might be different from what I'm about to tell you. So when I'm working with, most of my clients, when I'm asking them, so what kind of thing do you do? Like, what is your checklist when you're preparing for the interview? And very often what I hear is that they review job posting. They're doing some research on company's website. They're learning something about company's mission, vision, values, all this jazz. They will go ahead and check out their interviewers on LinkedIn, just to get some sense of who they'll be speaking with. They might look up some of the common questions and kind of try to see what are some typical brilliant answer formulas that will help them nail that interview. And unfortunately, all of these things, maybe to some extent, they are helpful, but in general, it's something that I do not recommend to do if you really want to set up yourself for success. So let's look into the things that I suggest for you guys to do. And the very first one, right? Instead of just doing a job posting review, what you want to do, you want to decode the posting. And I know that the word decode sounds a little fancy, but I'm going to give you more meaning. I'm going to explain you the meaning of it. So the thing is, something that many candidates do not realize, that the interview questions, they are actually being derived from the posting. So they're coming directly from the posting. And this is why it's so essential to not just do your research and review, not just to do the review of the posting, but also take some extra steps to make sure that you're ready for some potential questions that you will be asked. So on your screen right now, I just have a quick example of a very typical posting. I'm sure that you guys have seen thousands of similar ones on Indeed, LinkedIn, wherever. And this one is for the librarian position. So let's just start with a little bit of decoding here. As you know, usually I did remove some of the sections from this posting just for the sake of the exercise, but the main parts of the posting that you want to pay attention to will be responsibilities. Or in other words, I'm going to be a translator here from the employer's language to the human language. So these are the things the employer wants you to talk about. These are the things that they want you to share through your answers, because the responsibilities that you see on the posting, these are not just the tasks that you'll be doing. These are the issues that the employer would want you to resolve as a successful candidate or as a future incumbent in this position. So you want to do a thorough review of that section. Then the job requirement section, or requirements, or things that you have to bring, whatever it's worded on the posting. These are qualifications that you must demonstrate for your answers to convince me as an employer that you meet the criteria of the role and you qualify and you will be successful in this position that we're looking to hire you for, right? And finally, the skills section, it might be kind of combined and hidden within responsibilities section sometimes, but this is kind of the part where the behavioral and situational questions are usually coming from. Okay, and I'm going to give you some more examples. Don't worry if you're not fully following my train of thought just yet. That's fine. So, but for example, let's take a look at the first bullet point here, just to give you some more context. It reads, demonstrated, you will need to demonstrate ability to work both independently as well as collaborate with team members and stakeholders, both in person and in a virtual environment. So what it should tell you is, probably there will be questions in your interview that will be assessing your ability to work equally well, independently, and collaboratively as a part of the team. And there will be questions around that. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. And let's dive in deeper. So what do you do? Okay, you have this posting. Now you know what kind of sections you have to look into, right? But how do you actually prepare? How do you use this information to prepare yourself? So we'll go section by section, right? And now we are at responsibilities part of the posting. And something that I suggest for you to do is not just kind of quickly go through every bullet point like, yeah, I've done this, I've done that, yeah, I know how to do this, but sit and think about every single bullet point, and also maybe even write down next to it and remember all kind of experiences or examples that will demonstrate the evidence of your ability to perform this duty or task that you see among responsibilities. So think about all possible examples, all possible direct or indirect experiences that can show to the employer that, yeah, you can handle this task or this responsibility if you were successful. And some of the questions that might be asked based on this section, as per this posting, is tell us about your experience. So when you get a question like this, something that you will want to talk about are the kind of responsibilities as per the posting, right? So in this particular case, you will want to talk about how you recommended acquisition of books, how you selected, classified, cataloged, library materials, and so on and so forth, and how you develop different systems if you were to apply to the librarian position that we looked at earlier. Another example could be, can you give us an example of how you have used user feedback to influence your acquisition decisions, right? Then can you provide an example of a time when you had to classify a challenging item? So this is where, if you've done your homework and you thought of all the experiences where you selected, classified, cataloged library materials, right? This is something that you can use to answer this question that you might receive in the interview, or they can ask you to tell them about your approach to developing systems for the library. Then looking into job requirements section. Okay, this is an interesting one. And by the way, guys, if you're putting anything into the chat right now, I don't think you do. I can't monitor it, but I'm going to get back to this a little bit later. So a very typical question that you receive in the interview, and it sounds like, tell us about yourself. And a very, very common mistake that many candidates make, I was one of them at some point of my life, they will start talking about all sorts of aspirations that brought them into this profession and all sorts of things, but they don't really hit the main points that will make them sound and look qualified for the role that they're applying for, right? So one of the things that you would want to talk about is the level of education that you've obtained, and based on this posting you would want to talk about your master's degree or some sort of equivalent. And by the way, another typical question that I get here, so what if I don't have examples of the experiences for all responsibilities section or for the job requirements section? So this is where you need to sit down and think about any possible equivalents or transferable things that will still be helpful for you to be successful in doing the job. Okay, so the question can be, tell us about yourself, mentioning your highest level of education, any sort of relevant certificates, membership in professional associations, stuff like that will be essential for you to mention. Then kind of giving some sort of umbrella answer around your experience, that you have X years of experience doing all these responsibilities as per the posting that you of course had reviewed before the interview, right? And in this particular case, they're also saying that they need the person who would have completed an ALMA administration certification. So if you have this certificate, it's essential to mention that. If you don't have that, once again, so what are some of the steps that you've taken to do you at least know what this certification is about, right? Do you maybe have a similar one, or do you know what steps do you need to take to obtain this certification? So all sorts of questions can be also based on this particular segment of the posting. So you want to make sure that you're aware of what makes you a qualified candidate and address, hit the top of the nail, hit the nail on the top. Sorry, it's my English as an ESL speaking right now, but you need to hit the main points. That's something that I wanted to say here as you are answering questions. And the last section of the posting that we've had a chance to look at briefly before will be the skill section, or as I mentioned, sometimes it can be combined with responsibilities. And if you remember, a couple of skills that were required for this particular position is ability to work independently and in collaboration with the team members. And then another one is the person need to demonstrate understanding of and commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So again, if you were to prepare for this particular interview, you would want to sit down and think, so what kind of examples and experiences do I have where I successfully collaborated with team members? Maybe we've been working on a project with one of my employers, or maybe I have this experience from school or from outside of the country or through volunteering. And what are some of the things that I have in my experience, or do I even have the knowledge of what equity, inclusion, and diversity is? Do I have anything that I can say to this point, right? Because some of the questions that you might receive will be, again, give us an example of a successful collaboration with team members, or describe your understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and why are these principles important to you, okay? So this is just to give you a general idea, how do you decode the posting and what kind of preparation do you need to do based on the posting that you were provided with, or you're reviewing online. So I've done quite a bit of talking now, just trying to make sure that I'm staying on time and cover as much information as I can. And I'm going to ask you to participate in the very next activity that will help you to determine the type of question that you're looking to, that you can encounter in the interview. And many of you guys have mentioned that one of the challenges, and it was one of the top ones based on my survey, that answering questions is difficult. So we're going to talk about that now. And the activity that I wanted to ask you to participate, it's actually, these are just a few questions that, and please do not answer to it just now. I'm going to put the question again here on this platform. So yeah, I'm going to share it now. So question 1, as per the slide, tell me about a time when you identified a major problem in your workplace. How did you address it, and what was the result? Just wondering, what kind of question is this? Do you think it's a behavioral question? It's a situational question, maybe skills-based question, or maybe you don't know, and that's okay. You don't have to know anything at all. This is why you're participating in this session, so that's okay by me. I just want to see where you guys are coming from, and I see, yeah, we have someone who doesn't know what kind of question is it. I see that we kind of have the folks who think that it's a situational question. Most of you guys are actually thinking that it's a situational question. A few folks think that it's behavioral question, and some of you think that it's a skills-based question. So I'm going to take another sip of coffee and giving you another moment to answer it, and then I will share the right answer to this question. Okay, so I see that many of you have voted, and it looks like the leading answer here that it's a situational question. And let's see if you guys were right or you were wrong. Now you can see the right answer on the screen. Surprise, surprise, it's actually a behavioral question. Okay, so I see that a few of you got this question right. So I guess you are very seasoned interviewees. Kudos to you. You might be doing the workshop of your own sometime in the future, but I see that many of you guys were confused and you're like, is it a situational question? Is it a skills-based question? What is it? And some of you just didn't know, right? And it's important for you to understand the kind of question you're dealing with, because this is something that helps you to kind of decide for yourself what is the best answer, the best example that you can provide in this particular case. So now the mystery is solved, and it's a behavioral question. Why is it a behavioral question? I'm sure those of you who didn't get it right, you're like, have a big question mark in your head. So it is a behavioral question because it's very much targeting the situation that has happened in the past, right? It's one of the best indicators for me personally. I put the question back on your screen here. So this question is asking to tell you about the time when you identified a major problem in your workplace sometime in the past, right? So situation happened in the past. And then also it's asking you to give an example pretty much, right? Of the time when you identified a major problem in your workplace. How did you address it and what was the result? So what the employer is trying to do here is to assess your ability to problem solve. So when there is a problem in this position now, Okay, they're going to assess your behavior. What are you going to do based on that time when it happened to you in the past? So they're kind of trying to determine the behavioral pattern and whether or not you know how to problem solve. All right, so I hope I made it a little more clear to you folks. But let's look into one of the examples of the question that I prepared for you here. So another one that the person can get based on the posting that I've shared with you in the beginning. Give us an example of a successful collaboration with team members or stakeholders on a library project. What was your role and how did you contribute to the team's success? So this is where, again, the employer is trying to assess your behavioral pattern. How well are you collaborating with others? How well are you behaving as a team player, right? And it's asking for the example that happened, in the past. So it's a behavioral question. And I have a good and not a good answer for you here. You can guess by the thumbs up and thumbs down on the slide. So a good example, a good answer will be, and it's a very brief one, mind you, because I don't have a lot of space here, and definitely this kind of answer needs to be elaborated. I purposely limited myself to one sentence. So a good answer: I collaborated with faculty and students to develop a new research guide, resulting in a 50% increase in resource utilization for academic projects. So this kind of answer, and some of you have mentioned that using a STAR method for your answer works best. For those of you guys who do not know what STAR method is, it's this acronym stands for situation, action, and result. So if I were to elaborate on this answer a little bit, or if I were to give answer to this question, I would have said that, well, I can give you an example from, the workplace where, I worked at 5 years ago, and I was tasked with a particular project. And for this project to be successful, I collaborated with faculty and students, and I will have also elaborated on how exactly I collaborated with these folks, because this is what the question is asking about, right? What is my approach to collaboration? And then I will have shared the result. And you don't necessarily have to use numbers in your result part of the question. If you just say, yeah, and at the end of our collaboration, what ended up happening is that the guide that we created increased the resource utilization in the library. So that will be good enough. But adding numbers always adds another level of credibility. So, it's a good one. A not so good answer will be, I was on the team for a new digital archive project that we ran for a few months. It turned out to be a great success. And, this person kind of tells us about the project that they were part of, but what their exact contribution there was, right? Can we really assess their collaboration skills, their collaboration pattern, as it's a behavioral question based on what they've shared with us? Probably not. And what they define as a great success might be different from what the employer defines as a great success. So more information is needed. And many of you guys were right when you said that the context, the meat is missing sometimes in the answer. So that's definitely a case in this one. Okay, so I'm going to put the second question in the chat here again, so you guys would have a chance to tell me what kind of question is it. So what design software are you proficient in, and can you provide examples of your work using these tools? So once again, if you could share with me your answer in the chat, just to see. And I see that many of you responded that it's a skills-based question. I guess this one is a little, I don't know, maybe a little easier. This is why you're so confident. You're so like, yes, I know what it is. It's a skills-based question. Okay, I see that there is only one answer. So it looks like many of you are 100% sure that it's a skills-based question. Also skills-based question, it can be experience-based question or technical skills-based question. It's kind of, the same category. I also see that we have someone who thinks that it's a situational question. Okay. Okay, so we're kind of divided here between skills based and situational question, which is quite interesting. So let's see which one is it. Yeah, the Oscar goes to a skills-based question, right? Because in this particular question you're being asked, what kind of design software are you, do you have experience with? The question also might sound differently, like, tell us about your experience with this programming language, let's say, or tell us about your experience using that tool or that tool, or just tell us about your experience in a certain domain, right? How have you done this? What steps did you take, maybe, to achieve this particular goal? So it might, sound or look different, but it's all what the employer is trying to do is to just see, how much experience do you have and whether it's enough for you to be successful in the role that you've applied for. And another question of another example of such question, skills-based question, will be, tell us about your approach to developing systems to provide quick access to library collections. We're still kind of, using the questions as per the posting that I shared at the start. And a good question, let's just follow me here. I'm going to pinpoint the star parts of the answer here. So a good answer. In my previous role, this is what the situation was, right? I was tasked with improving access to our growing digital collections. So what I did, the action part, so I implemented a user-friendly online catalog system for intuitive navigation. Result, which reduced research time or search time by 40% and significantly increased user satisfaction. So we have the situation, we have the action that the person took, and the result. Beautiful answer. I would hire this applicant, no problem. And another answer, which is not so good, is I believe a simple alphabetical order and a basic search function are enough for patrons to find what they need. So again, what I'm trying to evaluate here as an employer is, what experience do you have with this particular task, with developing system? And this is what the first answer tells us. This is the experience that I have. And the second person, second answer, what we see is there is no such experience really, so it's bad. Okay, and the last question that I will ask you guys to tell me, what is this one? Do you think? Oh, interesting. I don't think I've added the fourth option for that question. But anyways, so imagine you're working on a project with a tight deadline and you realize that you won't be able to complete it on time. What steps would you take to address the situation? What kind of question do you think that is? You think it's behavioral, it's situational, it's skills-based, and there's no option for I don't know anymore, because we've reached kind of a half of my presentation. So you gotta know. You gotta know now if you haven't known before. So I see that most of you guys responded that it's a situational question. I guess I made it a little easier for you. I will try to be more challenging next time with my examples and with my questions. So yeah, 100% you're right. It's a situational question. And why is it a situational question? Well, first of all, the situational question usually has this kind of, you get a sense of a scenario, right? So in this particular case, imagine you're organizing a library event focused on promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's kind of a scenario there, right? And it's not necessarily tailored to a certain time, though as a behavioral question, as I've mentioned, behavioral questions, they are targeting a situation in the past. With situational questions, sometimes these are kind of theoretical questions, scenario based questions, or future focused questions. So this is how you can determine that that's what you're dealing with. And when answering a situational question, because it's hypothetical, it's not necessarily that you have to give like a solid example of a situation that happened in the past, though if you have one, it will be great. Like in this particular case, right, where a good answer, and I'm going to read it out for you, is something that indicates the certain situation that happened in the past. But you can also respond in a hypothetical way. So if I were to organize a library event focused on promoting DEI, I will do ABC to achieve the result of maximum inclusion of marginalized communities, of embracing minorities, right? So that is acceptable too, as an FYI, or for your information. So a good answer for this question is when organizing a library event, I engaged with community leaders from various backgrounds for insights and ensured accessible facilities, provided materials in multiple languages, and highlighted diverse voices for speakers and activities. So that's kind of the action part of the answer. And the result, resulting in a well-attended event that was praised for its inclusiveness and respectful representation of different cultures. Once again, I was trying to kind of limit the answer to one sentence. Of course, you can elaborate, but be mindful of time. I think it's Sarah who said that you got to be mindful of time. You don't want to overshare. Some of you said that, but and a bad answer will be I would focus on showcasing diversity, and there's nothing wrong that the person is not referring to a particular example in their experience. They're speaking hypothetically, right? I would focus on showcasing diversity through decoration elements to make all members of marginalized communities feel welcome. But it's still not a good answer because it's very limited and it doesn't really show that the person put enough thought into it and not enough actions are being described. And it's just it's missing the context, as some of you mentioned that it's a big no right, and I agree with you completely. Okay, so the next mistake that we're going to talk about is a poor research, which also happens more often than not. And I've kind of spoken about that, Lil, in the beginning, that many candidates, they do limit themselves to just, quickly reviewing the company's website, reading about some feedback on, what other employees get to say about this employer. They might do some research on salaries, benefits that are offered by this employer, and just get familiar with the interviewer's LinkedIn pages. And they're like, I'm good to go. I'm ready to answer any question now. And unfortunately, this is not going to help. If you are getting ready for the interview, you want to do the in-depth research, okay? And of course, the things that I'm listing here, it's not, you don't have to do all of that, but many of these things will help. So for example, if you're applying for the financial analyst position, right? You don't want to just know the company's mission, vision, values. If it's, let's say, if it's a non-for-profit organization or government-funded organization, this is where some financial reports, financial documentation will be available for you. So you can go ahead, review these reports, see, what kind of, financial health this particular organization has at this time, right? So if you're applying for the HR recruiter's position, you want to go ahead and see what kind of vacancies this organization actually needs help filling. What are some of the struggles that they might have? What kind of tools or channels do they use to source candidates? Are they only posting on LinkedIn or do they post on community websites as well? So you really want to do in-depth research, which might include, but can be more things than just short-term, long-term strategies, financial reports, values, milestones achieved by this employer, and other items that are relevant to this job that you're applying for. Okay, so it's kind of it needs to have this customized approach in a way. Then also you would have to, or if there is a chance for you to review company issued some print materials and stuff like that, it's helpful. Or you can at least go and do some research on social media. For example, you're applying for the social media manager position or marketing specialist role. This is what you will probably want to do. Then you also want to familiarize yourself with services, products offered by this company. Because, for example, if you were to apply to a post-secondary institution like a college or a university, when you'd be shaping your answers, right? For you, to know that the main product that this company, that these organizations are offering is education, and the main customer is a student. This is where, when you again shape your answers, they would have to be very much student focused, because student is the main customer of such organizations. So something to be mindful of. And also you want to see what kind of community involvement or social projects, sustainability initiatives, and all other things that this company might be involved in. So this is what the good research is. And just wanted to quickly share with you why is it so important to do research? Like, Julia, why were you blubbering about it for so long? But simply because you might get a question. So why did you apply to this position with our company? Or why are you interested in joining our company? And if you share the answer one, as per the slide, oh, you're one of the top employers in Canada, and I heard so many great things about your company. My colleagues, my friends, they worked at your company. you get a sense of what kind of answer is that. And then you have answer two here. I learned that your company has a major focus on sustainability based on the 2030 strategic plan. I believe that my skills and experience can contribute positively to this initiative. This is why I'm excited to be considered for this role. So most likely they will go with the candidate too, because it shows the research and the value that this candidate brings. Another very, very much typical mistake that I see more often than not is that many answers that candidates provide, they're kind of self-focused, right? So for example, when you get a question like, tell us about yourself, something that I've mentioned in the beginning, many people understand it in a way like, I need to, I don't know, like talk about myself. Like, what is that I found interesting? Maybe I see this opportunity as a great next career step for me, or I see it as an opportunity to develop new skills, and all this stuff. When in fact, translating from the employer's language to the human language, when you're asked this question, employer wants to know. So tell us what you can do for us based on the qualifications that you bring. And I'm going to show you a good kind of answer for this question in a second. Or for example, a question like, what makes you the best candidate for the role? So, many applicants, they interpret it in their own way, when in fact, what you're being asked is, what set of problems can you solve that other candidates can't, right? Or again, just emphasizing some of the things that make you qualified, or maybe slightly overqualified for the position. This is what the employer wants to hear. Or why do you want this job? And again, many applicants get caught off guard, and they're like, oh, I want this job because it's with such a great institution with a wonderful reputation. It's a natural progression for my career, and this is all great, but what value does it really show to this employer? And to translate this question is, how relevant is your interest in the role to the problems that we're looking to solve? Okay, so it's never about you. None of the interview questions are ever about you. It's about the employer's wants and needs. And I want you to have this mindset. So just, for you to have another chance to compare, what is a good answer for tell us about yourself question, which at first glance feels like, oh, it's about me, when it's not. So the first answer that we have here is, I'm an admin professional with a diploma in business administration and 4 years of experience supporting 3+ senior leaders and over 30 other stakeholders across the organization. I have extensive experience managing executive calendars, coordinating travel arrangements, and streamlining office operations. I noticed on your website, something that shows the research, that you run multiple events yearly. This is why I believe that my experience planning and executing events for 100+ attendees in previous roles will add value to this position. So it's all about the value that the candidate brings to the role. And at the same time, we might have a question, we might have an answer number 2, which is, I'm an admin professional with many years of experience supporting leaders at various organizational levels, which is not too bad. It's okay. But then they go with, I enjoy this job because I like working with people and it keeps me busy. It keeps me engaged. And I decided to apply for this role because it will be a great next step for my career, right? Which is, it's an okay answer, but it doesn't show as much value as it could have. And, this person might not get a job for all we know if they were to answer the question this way. And the last mistake, which kind of summarizes some of the mistakes that are very typical and many candidates make, is the poor answer itself. So I'm hoping that with me sharing with you some of the good answers, sharing with you the application of the STAR answer formula will help you to avoid giving a poor answer. But a couple more things for you to be mindful of is, very often I see that not just myself, but we see as a hiring panel that candidates, they show the lack of honesty, maybe even without realizing that. When, for example, we're asking the interviewee, so tell us about the time when you made a mistake. Tell us about the time when the project didn't go as well as you expected to, or tell us about the time when you went over budget. So many candidates get stumbled and they're like, I've never really had such an issue. I've never happened to me. to someone else, but not me. And it's, it might be the truth to some extent for some, maybe junior level career professionals, but we all know that, we as people, we tend to apologize, but we tend to screw up. We make mistakes. It's natural, but it's not about the mistake. That's not the focus, but the learning that we take out of it, right? So to us, it shows that either person has an issue kind of learning from their mistakes, from the problems, or maybe they do not have a well enough self-awareness, so their growth potential is limited. So something for you to be mindful of. Lack of context in the candidate's answer, we've covered that. Use the STAR method, and you'll be on track. Do the research. This is the next thing that I have here. Lack of preparation, very minimum kind of research. It puts you in a very bad situation because you kind of just kind of taking your chance in a way, and it's like a lottery if you don't prepare well. And something else that candidates struggle with is acknowledging when they do not know something, right? Or they don't have the answer for the question. This is a big one. It's psychologically very difficult to say it probably in front of a few people. Sometimes you barely know that I don't have such experience, I don't know this software or whatever. But it's okay. It's okay to acknowledge that, but also as long as you're ready to back it up with some other transferable things that maybe showing your progression towards gaining that experience that you don't have at this time, or towards learning that software or language or whatever that you do not have the knowledge of at this time. So it's okay as long as you have some sort of recovery strategy, right? Some sort of transferable things or action plan that you have the ownership of and you're ready to act on it. So it's important, muy importante, how my Spanish tutor will say. Okay, to summarize what we've covered today, because we are about to hit 12:52 mark, and I know that you guys would have to go at once, so I'm doing my best to stay on track with everything. So in terms of good preparation, I'm sure you've learned today that decoding, posting, and trying to derive any sort of possible questions based on the job responsibility section, job requirements and skills, it's essential. You need to think through and connect every single bullet point from the posting to the experiences and examples that you either might be coming from your direct experience or from your transferable experience. So we covered that part. Then the research needs to be advanced. The mediocre research will not work. It will not set you up for success. So make sure that you do a very deep research, and some reading, some review, proper review of things that will be relevant to this job that you will be interviewing for. Then also avoid self-centeredness or focus in your answers. Try to change your mindset. Try to maximize the value, professional value that you will be sharing in your answers. And don't forget to follow answer formulas, right? The STAR method that you've seen applied by me a couple of times through this presentation today. So start describing the situation, whether it's maybe hypothetical for a situational question or an actual one asked with the skills-based question or behavioral question. Describe a little bit of a situation, show the action that you took to resolve whatever has been happening, or do whatever needed to be done or you will do for a situational question once again, and then wrap it up nicely with the result, okay, that you've managed to achieve by doing so and so. So, okay. Whew. That's been a lot of talking now. We've reached the end of my presentation, but do not just go away for now. Well, first of all, there are 2 winners for me to determine for these 2 things that you see on your screen, and then also there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions.